The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Whether you're new to sales or a lifetime veteran, the Blackbelt Sales Podcast will sharpen your sword and guide you to master the art of sales. And now, here's your host, the ninja himself, Gene Slade.
What's up, my ninjas? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Blackbelt Sales Podcast. I'm Gene Slade, your host, and I have got somebody super special in the hot seat today with us. His name is Brandon Schamahorn, and if you don't know him, you want to go follow him on Facebook. Are you on Instagram, Brandon?
Yes, I am.
Do you know what your handle is on Instagram?
I'll have to go look. Let me see.
Just type Brandon Schamahorn, all right? You just saw it in the video there. You saw his name. You want to follow this cat. Brandon is the son of a gentleman who's a client of mine, and you guys are out in Tucson and in New Mexico, right?
Correct.
And so Brandon's got kind of a cool story, and I'm going to have him share it with you, but I'm going to spoiler alert just a little bit. Brandon has done over $2.2 million year to date as of yesterday. All right. $2.2 million. He's done about $500,000 a month on average the last 2 months. And as of last year and the year before, he was doing a consistent $3 million in sales annually. All right. So we met back in January, and you've invested in yourself in a couple of different training spots. But welcome to the show, brother. I appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, Brandon is typically a man of few words, as most really good salespeople are. So I'm going to have to try to pull some stuff out of him today. But Brandon, will you please just kind of give the audience a little bit about your background and maybe from your first job to right now?
So,
by the way, if you're watching this live right now, will you please just put live in the comments? If you're watching on a replay, just type replay. That's all we ask. All right. And we're going to deliver some badass content for you today.
Awesome. Yeah. So I started in the trade coming up almost 5 years now. I actually went and worked for one of my dad's buddies over at another HVAC company. Started off as an install helper. I was there for, I'd say, about 8 months over there, doing installs, helping out, trying to get to go work for my dad, and, kept turning me down. And
what a good dad. What a good dad.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, I've heard a lot of really successful people say that they won't hire their kids until they go out and they work for somebody else for a little bit. Sounds like that's what your dad did to you.
He did. He put me through the ringers. So I went and worked for one of his good buddies who taught me a lot in the trade, still teaches me to this day, whether it's the business side, and helps me on calls to this day. So I thank him for that too. Started as, like I said, the install helper. Finally, after 8 months, was able to move over to Blackbelt to work for him. Same thing, started as an install helper with him, working with his lead installer who has been working with him for years. Had the chance to learn from him as well. Of course, everything I was doing was wrong, it felt like. So we did new construction, custom homes, running ductwork, you name it, crawling through attics, been through it all. I was fortunate enough to, while doing that, I went to online school and was doing the Build to Tech program. So I was able to get my EPA certification, NATE certification, learn the aspect. But the big thing was, I wanted to get out of installs, learn the tech side, and pretty much was handed the keys and said, hey, you'll figure it out. So went on calls, started learning how to check the basic components, doing maintenances. And me, I love to talk. So was able to, maneuver my way through service, learn it. Just really put my mind to it, whether it was, if I was on a diagnostic, calling people who were, more experienced than I was in the train. Couple guys I can thank for that. There was even technical support too, was able to help me out through the situations that I didn't know. So that's what taught me a lot, asking questions. So got me through my service, and then was doing service and sales. And then about
Hey, how many people out there? How many people out there started similarly to Brandon? Like when you went out into service, you didn't necessarily have all the training you needed to, but you had somebody or a couple people that you could call that would help you out. Because Brandon, this is the way that I started my company. I'd done installs and I had done sales, but I had never ever run a service call until I started my air conditioning company. And fortunately, I had a couple of NATE certified technicians who were good friends, and I could reach out to them. Sounds like that's your experience.
Yeah, reached out to a lot of people and a lot of phone calls and
learn as you go.
A lot of frustrations. Even when I was in install, he would always say, "You can't leave the install till it's working. You better figure it out." So. Learn to make the phone calls to the right people, learn to check the right things to get me through those days, long nights. And, it's helped me out big time and got me to where I am today to be able to understand how things work, and still learning to this day. Again, it's all about education, from other people and teaching other people. And, that's, again, where it's got me to where I am today. And, learning every day, still to this day, asking questions and, trying to learn it as best as I can, of course. And I'm thankful again that I've had people that have taught me, that are still teaching me to this day the trade and what I can do better.
Guys, this is a $5 million salesman. Do you see the humbleness? It's pretty cool. It really is. I mean, this guy's not getting out here trying to tell us that he's the king shit. He's like, I'm learning every single day. And as you can see, last month he did $590,000 in sales. Now, are you still running in a service truck? What are you doing today?
No service truck, just sales. And then I'll help as much as I can in doing stuff in the office, whether it's helping the techs, installers as well. Just wherever they need me, I'm more than happy to help. Plumbing, I try to pick up on plumbing stuff too and educate myself on that, so I don't have to look at just HVAC. I can look at the whole home. So
I've got some questions for you. All right. It's not very often that somebody achieves what you're achieving right now. All right. And I'm not saying that to blow your head up or anything, because you and I both know that there's more room to continue to grow. Right. And that's what you're all about. But I'd like to know 3 pieces of advice that you would give somebody who is in the trade, who has not experienced the kind of success that you had. 3 tips for salespeople out there, people that want to get into sales. What are the 3 things that Brandon Schamahorn says that you've got to do to be successful?
Training. I mean, that's the big thing. Take as many trainings, and I'd say, whether it's my dad or a guy named by the name of Mike, just any training you do, whether you take one thing out of it, that's the whole purpose. Take as much information as you can and make it your own. Just go open-minded and look at each training and what you can do. If they recommend stuff, and they're successful, take that recommendation. Example, a couple books you told to read, The Secret Powers of Negotiations. I put that on audio, driving to work, home, back and forth every day, listening to it. And started using those. That other book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Mind Power, just things people have told me to read and, read it to pick up on little things that I can make it my own.
Well, there's reading and then there's listening to audiobooks. Are you listening to audiobooks during your windshield time?
I am. So
what would you say you listen to most during that windshield time? Is it audiobooks or is it something else?
Audiobooks.
Constantly.
Yeah. Every day. As much as I can. I even pass what I've read or even audiobooks, and I've given it to other people to say, hey, I recommend listening to this or reading this. And there's a couple people that take it on and come back to me and we're like, wow, it just opened my mind, and so that's one thing. I think taking that.
Now, real quick question about that. And I have some certain beliefs about this, and I want to know what your practice is, because I feel like my guidance is always for us to utilize the windshield time that we have. If we're at work, let's be at work. That way we don't have to do the training at home. And a lot of people make excuses that they're not doing training because they don't have time to do it. which is bullshit, as you and I know. Like, we've got 2 to 3 hours worth of windshield time. So are you doing training at home, or are you using the windshield time as the time where you do your training?
Windshield, and then I'm a late person, so I don't really go to bed till late time. So usually kids, wife will be asleep, and hey, if I could take an hour, whether it's watching a video or just reading 20 pages of something, and just I'm that further ahead, and you can still put on a headphone, listen to an audio or a podcast. I did listen when I first started 3 years ago. I would read that book too, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So another was Weldon Long. Listened to a lot of his videos when I first started, and took some of the things that he offered and put it into my own as well, which really did help me in the beginning to get me to where I was. But it's the grind, I guess, everyone says, is the grind, putting in the time, the effort to get to that next level. I'm willing to put in those hours and do it. It sucks. It's tiring.
So how often should somebody be training?
Every day. I say every day. I listen again to that book every day. Whether it's 30 minutes I can get in, 20 minutes, before phone calls come in, whatever it is, I do it, whether it's your
It doesn't
training,
cost anything extra to do that.
everything's at your fingertips, everything online. You can go on YouTube, again, watch you can watch Weldon Long, anybody out there.
All right. So number one, training. Number two, I think, I don't know if it's part of number one, but two, you got to show up. You got to continue to grind until you get to a place where you can let off of the pedal a little bit. Yes?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sometimes, you have to take a step back. There's times I struggle, and it's like, okay, what do I do? And again, people that are still working with me to this day, and it's like, hey, take a step back, go back to the basics, and take a deep breath and start yourself again fresh and do what you know how to do. When you go through that struggle, I'd say first week of May, I swung and I sold nothing. First week of May, went out swinging. I ran, I think, 10 calls, didn't sell one. And then I ended the month with 592,000. So this month, starting off, I think I've pretty much sold about 1 or 2 a day. So I think I've sent about 230,000 as of today.
Today is the 8th of the month.
Today is the 8th, yeah. So
how many of you guys out there wish that you sold that in just 1 month? Give me a hell yeah in the comments. Fan-freaking-tastic. Okay, so what's number 3?
Oh, number 3. I say look at the whole home as, when you go into it, just don't look at it just HVAC, what start learning how to look at plumbing, indoor air quality, electrical as well, solar.
How about if you're an HVAC or a plumber or an electrician, you at least begin doing a complete and full inspection on the entire electrical, plumbing, or HVAC system. Or if you're pest control, like you look at the whole house as a whole and you give them recommendations. Oh, I hate that freaking word, don't you?
Yeah.
I can't even believe I said it, but you give them options, right?
Options. And, the other thing, too, the owner of Strongbuilt, John, he was always about forms. And I think that really makes a huge difference. We have a couple different forms for our guys, and especially when we get in slow season, we have a whole home form. So they have to look at the plumbing. They have to look at the electrical. They have to look at the HVAC. So it doesn't give them a chance not to look at,
This is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Guys, if you're not looking at the house as a whole, you are missing the hell out. All right. And this is a major, major nugget for you guys out there. I can always look at a technician or a salesperson's paperwork and show you where they're failing. Right. And usually they start to skip steps. Right. Isn't it? How many of you get on a roll? Right. And you're making sales and stuff. And then you get lazy and you start skipping steps. And before you know it, you've fallen off the rails and you have a 0 week like Brandon was talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't it all about the process?
It's really where it starts, and it's, again, taking a step back when you do, because you can see as you're going from call to call to call, what's happening, and I had just had another guy riding with me so I can train him. And every time I get into the house, I'm like, look at him, I'm like, I'm going to sell this shit. And he's like, you do that every call. Before you go into it, you just look at me and you say the same thing and you walk out. Like, how do you do it? And it's just confidence, and then you feed off of people's energy, and you have to pick up on these people and how they interact with you. Get onto their same level. Sometimes, like, to them, you're a sales guy, they have their guard up. You have to break that guard down and get them to open up to you, and I think one of my favorite calls to this day was last year. I sold a house for $86,000. That's not my biggest, but it probably was the funnest. She had a 3-system house, pull up, and she was like just straight to the point. And I said, hey, I need to go see the equipment. I need to see what's here so I know what I'm quoting. Well, I don't even know if I'm going with you. I said, hey, that's fine. I said, again, it's for me and my managers to see what's going on inside the home while I'm here. So I need to get a couple pictures, some measurements of everything. So I got to start going through things and taking pictures. And 4 hours later, here I am, walking out with $86,000. I never asked for another competitor's bid. I don't do apples to apples. I don't focus on other companies. I'm there. I talk about Strong Built, what we do, what we have to offer, and the business we've built to this day.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of like meat and potatoes. All right, because I know that there's some people out there that want to hear how you would handle certain things. So tell me, when you get objections, because everybody loves to focus on objections. I don't know why, because when you do things right, objections tend to just fade away, and you start to begin to think, are these just laydowns? Like, am I just getting really good calls? Do you ever feel that way?
No, I get objections all the time. I just had one the other day, and one company was, I think, for like $8,500. The other one was for like $10,000, and she called another guy, and she was like, I thought it was like $5,000, and he goes, no, the $8,500 one sounds good. And so I'm going through everything. I'm like, all right, I got a battle to pick. Let's do this. She's like, well, I'm going through a divorce. I need 3 quotes to be able to show them so we can pick what one we need to do for this house. And the system's completely down. She's having a party Monday. I'm like, look, I can do this thing tomorrow. And I'm sitting there, and your line popped up, and it hit me. It was just like, do you know why people choose Strong Built regardless of the difference in price? And
all right, so hang on a second. So what Brandon's talking about is this is what we train in our mastermind. And when we go on site, if a customer's got a price objection and they say something like, hey, you're charging me $15,000 and my neighbor got one for $8,000, Brandon's response is,
you know why people choose Strong Built regardless of the difference in price?
Yeah, would you like to know why more people choose Strong Built for this type of work regardless of any difference in price? What do you think the client's going to say? They're going to say, yeah. I mean, because we don't just buy the cheapest thing out there, do we? Do you buy the cheapest thing everywhere that you go?
No.
You know that cheap shit breaks down, right? And if somebody comes at you confidently and says, hey, I get that we're more money, but would you like to know why people do business with us regardless of that? They're going to say yes and open up and give you an opportunity. They're going to give you permission to talk about your company and what makes you different and why people choose you. So, Brandon, take it from there. You asked her the question.
Yes. Yeah. She did that, and then after going through the features and benefits, she looked at me and said, like, what do we got to do to get this started? Got it done. Next day installed, and a couple days after, she's like, hey, I'm ready to do that second system on the other side, and so it led into another thing, into another.
So wait. We're skipping past something very important. When she said yes, I'd like to know why more people choose you regardless of difference in price. Give me 3 or 4 things that you said to her.
Warranty, the manufacturer warranty, 10 years of parts and labor. Our maintenance plan, free diagnostics, free after hours, holidays and weekends. Even comes with the plumbing inspection. And then all of our installers are manufacturer certified. So, go over everything again.
Any other features and benefits of the company?
Lifetime thermostat, veteran-owned company, 24-hour service. I had another one. I'll go take a step back. I had another client. yesterday I sold. She called me this morning, and we're doing it today. She called me this morning and goes, "Hey, my neighbor got one for $10,000." And then I said, "Well, let me go back over everything again with you." And, I'm at 17, and I'm like, "Well, let me go back over everything with you again." So went everything, and I said, "I have a quick question." I said, "You called yesterday afternoon, right?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "We got within to you about 4 hours, give or take." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I was just amazed on how fast you guys got to me when I called you that day." And I said, "That's why you chose Strong Bill." And then she's like, "All right, I'll see you guys this afternoon."
Isn't that funny? Something that simple can cover a $7,000 gap, right? I'm like, I go in loaded for bear. I'm ready to give you 30 reasons to buy from me, and I'm waiting for you to stop me. But isn't it amazing that something that simple, just being able to justify your price to the client, $7,000 gap, that's insane.
It is, and you get those objections, sometimes when people tell me the prices they've got, it's just like, whew, you're like, all right, no, you don't give them that reaction. Just in your mind, you're thinking that, and you're like, all right, what do I got to, this is what I got to do to go win this, and take it to that level of what can I do. And, it's confidence. This is a big thing, and people got to see that.
So let's take it back to January. You'd been selling $3 million a year for the last 2 years. We did some training. We did an on-site over there at your place in Tucson. And then you ended up investing in Service Tech Secrets Mastermind, which is one of the lead ninjas companies, where we do training twice a week. What changed for you that got you a 60, almost 70% increase in your revenue? What was the difference?
I think it's more of a confidence booster is what it feels like to me. I feel more confident coming in with more tools in the bag that I grabbed. I will be honest, I went in, I did go in open-minded, and then
slightly open-minded.
Yes.
I could tell by your body language that you knew that you're shit. You knew you were good. You've got an ego just like any other successful person has got, right? And you were a little bit closed off.
Well, and I screwed it off after the fact too, and I really did screw it off. I'm like, I don't need this, just like everybody else has, BS, blah blah blah, and I think just jumping on those videos, like you said, hey, you can either be in the stands and watch, or get down on the court and play. And that, got to me. And then again, I know what the owner of Strongbill invested into this. So I was like, hey, if nobody else wants to do it, I'll take that leap of faith and I'll jump in and do this. And, if other people want to follow me, they can follow me, and I tell the guys all the time, I said, I still do the trainings. And I said, there's a reason why. There's a group of guys in the same industry we're in, doing the same thing you're doing, having the same objections. And when you get a group of guys talking about the same objections, what we can do and how we can say it.
Come on now. Preach, brother. Iron sharpens iron.
I tell them that too. That's another saying I put in there as well. Iron sharpens iron. And
you got to get around other successful people that are doing the shit that you want to do. Right? And unfortunately, a lot of people let money stand in the way of their success. And it's just so crazy. You say you can't afford it. Let's say you say that you can't afford $1,000 a month. Is that exactly why you have got to start training?
Yeah, it is, and some people are okay with doing the day-to-day stuff and doing what they're made, are happy with what they make. And I'm like, heck no. I said, if I make 200, my goal is 250 or 300. I'm trying to get myself to the next level, and I just, at the end of the day, I don't want to be a slave to the money and just keep doing the little things just to barely get by. There's things that I want to do, and I want to be comfortable, whether it's taking family on a vacation, or I want to go buy this, I want to go buy that. And I don't want to be the person that has to plan for it. I want to be able to say, okay, let's do it.
Now, I don't want to be superficial or anything. You're making good money right now. What have you purchased in the last, say, 4 months?
Oh, shit. I bought a $500,000 house. I bought a $40,000 or $60,000 car. Just put turf in the backyard. So I've spent a big chunk of money. And then I just bought another truck too, so I couldn't say no to it. It was cheap, but I have some work I could put into it, and I'm like, hey, I
Little
have the money to
project.
do it. Yeah, I have the money to do it. So, I've spent into it, and I know when I need to take that step back and say, okay, I need to take a breathe and let's grind. I can make that money back quick. Let's do it.
What will
And
you
again,
what will you earn for yourself when you hit the $5 million mark?
probably four. If I hit 5 million, I'd probably be close to about 350, 400,000. And I always look about it. It's not about the money. It's about taking care of the clients while you're there and servicing them and giving them the options. And I told my first client today, and went against a bunch of other companies. And I said, you already know what you want. And he goes, I do. And I said, well, I'm here to just tell you about the warranties and what our system can do for you. And I said, I'm just straightforward. It's you like it or you don't. If you don't like it, that's fine. I said, if you want me to help you choose another contractor for not the company for you, I'll help you with that. And he looked at me and just opened his eyes. He's like, whoa, like never heard somebody say that before. And there
I
he
used to
was.
do the same thing.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, hey, if you don't go with Strongbill, I'm more than happy to help you to pick the right contractor for you, help you pick the right contractor. And people like, whoa, like really? And it's
That's
like,
different, right? Because people don't care what you know until they know that you care about them.
And that's the big thing, taking the step back and making sure you're helping them. Like I said, the money will come. And I tell the guys that all the time, the money will always be there. The money will always come. And sometimes it's not about the money. It's about taking care of people. I went to a client the other day and I felt horrible. I picked up the phone and made a phone call and just said, I need to help this lady out. Husband had dementia, walked out of the house one day, never came back home, and
God.
it's been over a year and nobody's found him or anything. And I said, I think we need to help this lady out. And I feel like it's the right thing to do. And so I picked up the phone call and, I said, what can I do for this lady? And they said, hey, just take care of her, do what you got to do. Perfect. Do what I got to do. And to me, I don't make anything off it, but I'm happy because she needed to be taken care of at 80 years old, and the day we're doing the install, refrigerator breaks. And it's like, hey, what can we do? Can we go get you one? Can we go pick it up for you and install it? Like, what do we got to do for you? So again, it's about taking care of the people, and again, the paycheck will come.
And guys, you have to make a profit in business to be able to do those things for other people. Right. So stop worrying about what you're charging. Charge enough to make a 20, 25, 30% net profit so that you can give back to your community, so that you can give back to your employees, so that you can give back to customers that are in need. And it feels good. I mean, we get more out of it than even they do, I think.
Yeah. I mean, they're telling me the stories, I felt for us. I was about to tear, I was getting teary-eyed. I'm like, all right, like, move on. And, I even had one of my installers call me after. He goes, I feel for this lady. And I'm like, it's hard, and you run into those situations all the time. And even when I was a technician, I ran into it all the time where people couldn't afford the repairs, but, you got a baby sitting there on the couch, and it's like, hey, I'll just take care of you. If I have to pay for the repair, I'll pay for the repair. Mm-hmm. It's, again, about taking care of your clients while you're with them.
I imagine that leads to other business moving forward into the future. Hell of a lot of
referrals. I think, clients that I go to, I'd probably say a year, probably about 20 referrals is probably what I see a year.
Without even asking for them.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, man. What's something else that you'd like to leave with the salespeople in the audience? What's something else that's super, super important that a Schamahornism?
You don't want to be a Schamahorn. It's all about training, and I take that, again, with my dad, seeing him being humble and the training he did growing up and what he did and sacrifice. So again, I can play baseball and continue with that and do what I had to do. But when he wasn't there, I knew what he was doing. and sacrificing. And I know how many places and states he traveled to for the training. And even still to this day, he's training and reading books. So I knew how long he's been doing this, and for I think about 36 years now, and what he's done over the course of those years. And I knew the grind that you had to put into this industry and the education, the learning, whatever it is, you have to take each day and train yourself to get to that next level. Sometimes you have to teach yourself. Sometimes you could pick up the phone and ask questions. And, at the end of the day, I think you can't be scared to ask the question, because if you don't ask the question, you'll never know the answer. So I look at it from that perspective too. And again, for example, you recommended 3 books, and what did I do that night? Boom. Bought those 3 books, and I'm in the process of still reading them or listening to the audios, and then being able to pass those down to other guys to read and be like, hey, I recommend this, And I had another technician the other night. I'm like, man, you really need to get this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, read it. He goes, man, you're not the only one that's recommended it. He goes, I think it's time for me to actually get onto that and read it. So not just that, again, just all the trainings I've done and people I've listened to is, what's gotten me to this point, to where I'm at now.
It's freaking awesome, man. Hey, listen, I really, really appreciate you coming on and joining us today. If you guys want to ask Brandon some questions, just hit him up on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm sure that he'd be more than happy to share his experiences with you and continue to give back. As you can tell, he's a giver. All right. And the people that are most successful in life, I find, are usually the givers. All right. So don't ever stop giving, y'all. Brandon, thank you for coming on the Blackbelt.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Hey, guys, listen, if you want more training, go to leadninjasystem.com and see what I've got for you. I appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you later. See you, ninjas.